It was an early morning in Ponyville. Twilight had packed some books in her saddlebags because she was going to Canterlot because Celestia had prepared a test for her about what she had learned about friendship lessons while staying in Ponyville. She had asked Spike to look after the library when she was gone, since she was going to be gone for 2 days, and he promised to look after the library for her. So, on her way to the train station, she ran into Pinky and Rarity. Her friends were aware that she was going to Canterlot for 2 days of this big two test that she was going to be doing, and they told her that she will be passing it. Even though the Twilight were hesitating and were a bit nervous or worried if she even is gonna pass this test, because she was really worried if she would failing this test. She was afraid that Celestia deciding to not be her teacher anymore, and that she may have to move back to Canterlot and have to leave her new friends behind. But both Pinky and Rarity told her that she will pass it. Even if she may fail of maybe on one or two questions, she wouldn't be cast out as Celestia's personal student, because one or two questions would not be any issue. And even though Twilight understood that they were right about it, but she still could even hesitate to one question if she even once gonna be passing the test or not. But still, her friends ensured her that she will pass it, no matter what. She thanked them and went on the way to the train station. But on the train, though, she was still now a little bit worried if she even was gonna pass the test or not. Because even so, if she had going to fail more than the half of the test, she doesn't even know if she is even going to be as Celestia's personal student at all. And she couldn't even imagine her life would be if she would have to be being stopped to be Celestia's personal student. But when she did arrive to the castle, two road guards brought her to Celestia's personal room. There, she was being waiting for her with some scrolls, and she smiled and said, "Welcome, Twilight. Now, are you ready for your big test?" Even though the Twilight nodded and smiled, said that she was ready, but now she was even more worried than before. But she took a deep breath and she started to take notes and even started to do answers to the questions on the test that one Celestia had prepared for her. She told Twilight that she's not going to tell her the result until the next day after she had finished both part of the test. And she was just worried if more than ever, if she's going to fail or pass it. But the rest of the day, around the lunch break, she decided to take Twilight to the castle garden to have some lunch. And there, Luna joined them in. Because ever since now when Luna had returned back and been freed from Nightmare Moon's control, Luna and Twilight had become good friends. Even though most ponies in Ponyville, or in an entire kingdom, wasn't really as sure that wasn't probably not even had forgotten that there were two royal sisters, not just one. But with help from Twilight and her friends, especially when Luna came with Celestia back to Ponyville after that she was freed, that she was ensured for the public that she wasn't the Nightmare Moon anymore. In fact, she were Celestia's youngest sister, Luna. Ever since then, Luna's reputation to be as the sister had once returned slowly started beginning better, and she had to start to get some more friends in Ponyville and some other places around Equestria. But even during the time, Celestia said to Luna that she isn't going to tell Celeste Twilight about if she's going to fail the test or not. Even Luna were hesitant to even ask, but why aren't you just going to tell her if she had passed the first part and the next afterwards? Celestia didn't want to be doing that because she didn't want to give Twilight any false hope, at least. And that was something that Luna could understand. And the rest of the day, around 3 4 p.m., when Twilight had taken was finished for the first part of the question, Celestia actually had offered her to stay at the castle, but she had decided not. She had offered to stay there, but she declined the offer because she had already had asked her parents before even coming over if it was possible to stay there. After all, her parents didn't even live that far from the castle, and her parents were just happy that their daughter could stay there for those 2 days. So when she went home, she actually left the house just almost right afterwards because she wanted to get some fresh air and maybe just get some for a walk before they can go back home. Though. But even on her walk, she was still thinking and was worried that she's gonna pass or fail this test. But as she was walking around, she walked into some pony, and she immediately apologized. But suddenly, the pony said, "No, no, there's not bit worry," and she immediately recognized the voice. "Spacelight? Is that you? Twilight Sparkle? Is that very you?" And it was actually an old friend of Twilight, Spacelight. They both went to Celestia's School of Gifted Unicorns while they were studying. But ever since when Twilight has been chosen to be Celestia's personal student, they lost touch. Even though they hadn't even seen each other for at least a number of years. So, are you back in town? Or, I hadn't even seen you in a while, but I heard that you moved to Poland. Are you still studying there for studying about true friendship? Twilight nodded and said that she is, but now she's in town only for about a couple of days because she was doing a big test. Or tests. What about you, though, she asked. And even though that Space Light said that she actually, ever since she had finished the School of Gifted Unicorns, she discovered her true purpose, her true talent. It was within crystals. But she explained, even though that her talent in crystals, she didn't was unexpectedly to be a very well talent in jewelry making. And in fact, she had opened her own small store of jewelry making in town only about maybe 1 year after she finished the school and had discovered talent. She was actually proud how this new life for her was turning out so well. But then she thought to ask, "So, what else have been happening with you? Knowing that you're had your own business, have you found some special someone to be with? You're well known, you're well respected, I heard." And Spacelight said that she were dating a stallion for a couple for a short time, but it was a while back, but it didn't work out. So they broke up. So ever since then, she has been mainly focused on her business, and she was just happy that they were working well for her. So they decided just to continue talking for maybe another couple of minutes before Twilight had to go back home. But she said it to Spacelight. She was happy to see her old friend again and knowing that she was doing well and hope for better, even that she had a better future as well. And Spacelight smiled and nodded and thanked her. And by the next day, though, at the castle, Twilight took part of the second test. Even now, she was really nervous if she was gonna fail or not on this part. But Twilight was told by Celestia after she was finished that she will have to answer the next few hours because they will take some time. And to this end, Twilight decided to walk around the town and maybe go somewhere to get something to eat. So Twilight arrived at a small cafe not that far from the castle, and of all places, she saw that Spacelight was sitting at one of the tables outside. She was waiting over to Twilight to come over, which she did. She asked if she wanted to sit down so they could talk. And since Twilight were actually hungry and had time, so she agreed. So they start talking and ordered some sandwiches together and just try to get to reconnect once again after all this time. But even after all this long time, they hadn't even seen each other for some since school, though. Twilight was actually happy to hear all about what Spacelight had been going through all this over the years, like after a breakup, and that she started her own business, and but she was happy though. And even Spacelight herself was really excited to hear more about Twilight, her time in Ponyville, about her studying about her friendship, and because both were talking about the time at school. Because when Spacelight mentioned, like, well, back in school, you didn't, all your focus were only about studying books, not even have any friends at all. But see you now, having so much friends back in Ponyville, and it's a big difference from you though. Well, I do still read and studying back home, even magic or anything like that, to improve myself also. But still, but I agreed. Having friends is probably the best thing that ever had happened to me at all, said Twilight with a smile. Even though that Twilight and Spacelight were actually now reconnected after all this time. Even after when before Celeste Twilight was about to leave, she had actually said to Spacelight that she is always welcome to come to see her in Ponyville at any time. She had promised to do so. And back at the castle, Celestia informed Twilight she had passed both the tests, and she was just excited. She even thought that she were a bit nervous that she was gonna fail any other questions or something like that. But she was just happy that she passed both of the tests. And since then she had passed, she was just proud to feeling that she had made a successful in that. So after that, she went back to her parents' home, and they were also happy that she had passed, even though they were already knew that she would pass it. It would not without a question about it. Well, the next day, Twilight went back to Ponyville. Even when she came to the library, all her friends was there. When they heard that she was actually had passed, Pinkie Star said, "This needs to celebrate!" And she immediately started a small party to celebrate this. Even though Twilight rolled her eyes, it's like, "Oh, Pinkie," as always. But during the party, though, Twilight mentioned that she had reconnected with an old friend of hers, but the name Spacelight. Rarity said, "Spacelight? Is she blue with the crystal as a cutie mark?" "Yeah, you know her?" "Well, I know about her work. I mean, she is also jewelry store in Camelot, and her work is so well known. I mean, I didn't know she was a personal fan of yours." And in fact, yeah, she is. And if you want, I could maybe ask her if she could maybe you make some jewelry for you. "You don't have to do that," she said. "But if I had a cutie mark, a necklace with my cutie mark, it would be a priceless worth." And in fact, Twilight wrote it to Spacelight a couple of days later about his request. And only about a week later, Twilight received a box in the mail, and it was in fact the necklace, but also a small note saying that Twilight doesn't even have to pay for this necklace. It was free of charge, as a token of thanks of the friendship. So Twilight gave this necklace to Rarity, and she was stunned. And even especially that she didn't have to pay for it, but she loved it. And over time, Rarity and the others started to notice that her friendship with Spacelight was actually started getting stronger and stronger, and it was just happy for it all. Even Twilight and Spacelight, they did wrote each other letters quite often. And it happened that Spacelight came to Ponyville to spend time with her to meet her other friends, and she was just happy to get to know them better. And but over time, something started to change because only about a year after that they had reconnected a friendship, Twilight started to have some feelings for Spacelight. But she didn't tell any about that to her other friends. Not even like any pony actually. She decided to keep it as a secret because the main reason were that she wouldn't know if Spacelight were into marriage at all because she didn't want to jeopardize their new friendship again. After all, they had just been only about a year earlier they had reconnected a friendship, and she didn't want to jeopardize their new friendship again. So she decided to keep it a secret, even for the rest of her friends. But they still met from time to time when she went to Canterlot or when Spacelight came to Ponyville to spend time. But just be with her made it more impossible for her even to stop looking at her. Because it made it harder for her to even to be with someone like a Spacelight. Not to even able to be in, just she wanted to just tell her. But she was afraid at the same time. And her love for Spacelight only grew stronger and stronger for each single day. But then it happened. One day when Celestia had granted Twilight to be the newest princess, princess of friendship. Twilight's whole life went upside down at that moment. Because even though now she is a royalty, she had told others in Ponyville and other places that she went to that they don't have to treat her in any special, like as being a princess. But some Pony did. But eventually, she had to agree to let it happen, though. But there was one thing that hasn't even changed, and that was her feelings for Spacelight. Even though that she hasn't even heard if Spacelight had been seeing another pony or not, but it happened that she did ask herself maybe if this was the right decision not to be telling her or any pony else. But it was one pony that she did want to ask for advice, and the only pony that she knows had the best knowledge, for also well known for to give the best advices, and that was her sister-in-law, Cadence, now who lived in Crystal Empire with her older brother Shining Armor. So one day, she went to Crystal Empire to spend time with her brother, but also to make the same time to ask Cadence for advice. Cadence was a little surprised that Twilight actually had a crush on someone, especially a mare. But she was happy though. But her only advice for Twilight it was to be herself and be brave enough to tell Spacelight, because one day she may have lost the opportunity to do so. Even if that means that if Spacelight had found someone else to be with, or if that she passes away early before Twilight even had a chance to tell her. Even that Twilight knows that Cadence had a good point, but was it still a big conflict within her own heart? Like, I should tell her. No. Yes. No. Back and forward. She wasn't even sure if if she should tell her at all. But after a while, though, she decided to do so. When when Spacelight came to visit in Twilight Ponyville, she took her to the cafe nearby, and they used a small talking. First of all, just to catch up what was happening in their lives recently, and when she was ready, she did tell her. And at first was silent, but then Spacelight looked at Twilight with a smile and said, "You know, I kinda had a feeling that you didn't like me that way, but I wasn't sure." But Twilight said, "I know you probably don't like me the same way back, though. I mean, I don't blame you if you don't like me the same way back. But Twilight, I do like you more than as a friend. And I'm actually willing to give us a chance to see if this actually can work." Oh, but then Spacelight said, "The main reason why I didn't ask you before, because when I found out you had turned into princess, I wasn't sure if I was even worth enough for you to even to be dating and all. I mean, I'm not a noble or anything much as well-known, respected celebrity or anything like that. Even though I own this well-known store in town in Cantonot, but I wasn't sure if I wasn't even well enough, that well known or well acceptable for you to be dating. You know, Spacelight, I would have still been dating you even despite your I was not a princess or not. Really? Yeah, I do like you more than as a friend, and like I said, I'm willing to give you a chance to be seen if anything can work between us. But there was one thing though when they start dating. They actually went to a restaurant the same evening, but Twilight didn't tell any of her friends about this because she didn't want to give them any false hope about this potential relationship. But after about 2 weeks, then she told her friends about this. And it didn't even take long for the whole public to get to know about this. When the general public found out about her being dating a mayor, they were all supportive, especially when it came all the way to Crystal Empire. Her older brother was like, huh, I didn't know and even expecting her to be dating a mayor. Did you do that? Well, Caden smiled and then he noticed, you didn't know about this, didn't you? Yeah, I did. She did came back here, well, if you remember her visit one a while back, when she and I were going to have some small talk, she revealed it to me. But I made you promise not to tell anybody, especially you though, but I hope you understand. You know it. But I'm just happy that may have found her true soulmate, like I did. Well, only time can tell. And she was right. Because they wouldn't even know if Twilight and Spacelight would even end up in a long term relationship because they had no idea if it was going to last for only a year, 2 years, or even 6 months. But as time passed, though, the relationship between Spacelight and Twilight only grew stronger and stronger. And eventually, one day, Twilight actually proposed to Spacelight when she were in Ponyville for a visit, and she said yes immediately. They decided to have their wedding in Cantonalt. Pinky, she and all her friends was just excited, but Spacelight, she was more happier. She actually had asked Luna to be her bridesmaid, and Twilight, she had asked Rarity to be her bridesmaid. Even at the party itself, which Pinky had arranged, every pony had a great time, especially when Twilight and Spacelight shared the first dance together. It was the most amazing time ever. When they danced, though, it felt like there was a whole world stopped and they were only ones there. Even the both families were really happy to see their daughters to get married. And eventually, though, they went to their honeymoon to a tropical resort, and there they had a good time, swimming in the ocean, got sightseeing, just having a great time. And even the later when they came back to Ponyville, which Spacelight had decided to move to, she even opened her own other second store in Ponyville. And since she had promoted one of her assistants back in Cantonalt to the manager to look after her first store, which also was still a good sense. But just barely 3 years after they'd been married, both Twilight and Spacelight felt they were ready to start a family. So they used the same spell that Twilight had learned and had helped other married couples to have a family of their own. Spacelight decided that she wanted to be pregnant first, and she actually gave birth to a son. And 3 years later, they actually decided to have some more. And Twilight became pregnant and she had a baby daughter, but they were both surprised that they actually had an alicorn daughter. But eventually, their son also became an alicorn at some point later on. Even though that Twilight and Spacelight couldn't be more happy to be with some pony like they loved the most. Because if Spacelight had never been ran into Twilight, She may not even have been with her at all. And even if they had run into each other, and that if Twilight had even gone to Cadence or asked for advice, she may not even have been confident enough, been brave enough to even to admit, confess her feelings towards Spacelight. It would have meant she would never have met her soulmate and had this amazing family, a son and a daughter, both now as an alicorn. But there was one other thing that made her really happy to realize. Now that she is an alicorn, she is immortal, and that Spacelight is just a unicorn, and she would eventually pass away, but over time. So on the wedding, she had only one request, a wish for both Luna and Celestia. If it was possible to grant Spacelight with immortality, even though that she would remain as a unicorn, but both agreed to let it happen. And Spacelight, she was really stunned when they had offered the opportunity, but she accepted it because she knew eventually she would pass on and that Twilight would be alone with the children. So she accepted it to be immortal. Even it took some time for her to get used to being immortal, but eventually she had made a full acceptance. And this is how Twilight Sparkle and Space Delight found a true love got found together. The end.